my dears. My name is Joanna and I welcome you to Johanna Takonis, the Deconstruction of C-PTSD podcast. In this episode, we will talk about the ring and ball trauma, which I hinted at last week. These two are the remaining shapes of trauma, as far as I know at the moment. I think it is important to be able to visualize the trauma and PTSD to better know what you are up against. And it no longer is just an invisible something. So let us talk about it. Well, the good news first. None of these two traumas will be hiding. You might be in denial about some of them, but they are not hiding. There is usually a clear impact or at least area where it comes from. So this is only the core of the PTSD, the trauma. The whole PTSD is usually like cotton candy around the stick, which is a topic for another time. Nonetheless, this is important to know, especially if you don't know the core or reason for sure. Often people don't know what is causing this, so this can help you understand what the main culprit looks like. It also offers some answers why something affected you, so mostly it is to inform you and update your information regarding what trauma looks like. Of course, like with everything based in reality, there is no cutoff, which of course means there's gray area and things in between. And of course you might have several traumas that are shaped differently. So, let us go from simple to more complex. That means we first talk about the ball trauma and then the ring trauma. First, let us start with the ball or bonbon trauma, if we want to stick to the tradition of naming the traumas after sweets. The trauma is the most simple in its structure and impact. Not that makes it easy. This trauma usually happens if you have a one-time event that is traumatic. An example often used is a severe car crash or witnessing the death of someone. An event that most likely changes your life forever. Of course, the ball itself is made of many smaller parts and can be dissolved this way. But the structure of the core trauma is the ball. But simplicity can also cause problems. People don't think that such an event warrants a trauma and start pushing the whole thing aside, which leads for it to keep piling things up and the PTSD getting bigger and more difficult to care of. Similar to a small operation wound, the recovery time and the toll on the body is greatly underestimated. It is really hard to understand how long things take to heal until you had something like that. It is, unsurprisingly, the easiest of the three shapes to treat. The sooner, of course, the better. But it really makes it so much easier to have a clear cut-out trauma. Second is the ring trauma or donut trauma, which is a bit more tricky than the ball trauma. It is sort of midway between ball and sleeper trauma, at least in its complexity and easiness to find. You see, the ring trauma applies among other things when you suddenly get traumatized by something that happened several times before but didn't traumatize you. And suddenly you get PTSD. The ring trauma is several factors connecting with another and forming this core of the trauma, which makes it a lot harder to come to the conclusion why and what is traumatizing you. There is, as far as I know, no limits to the amount of factors that can be involved. And taking them apart is like disentangling quite a ball of yarn that is a complete mess. The trick is to take one aspect down after another. Basically cut open the ring and work yourself through the line now. Well, more or less a line. It depends on how much factors are connected to another. Either way, you can usually only solve one aspect at a time. Of course, this doesn't only apply to things that happened before and didn't traumatize you, but also things that never happened before or the increase in severity. In my experience, the ring trauma is present for strong PTSD and all C-PTSD cases. The more severe the PTSD, the more extreme the ring trauma and the more factors added, and the extremity of factors changes. Nonetheless, it is rather helpful to have a house number and know what you are supposed to look for. I am afraid I cannot ignore the unrest that is going on at the moment in America, as far as one can as an outsider. I am sure that the pandemic situation didn't help, but there have been issues for quite a while. The reports we are getting, it really makes it look like a police state or a war zone. I also heard threats of military being added. As if the police running rampant like this isn't bad enough. De-escalation is needed ASAP. So many dead, so many injured. In times like these, true leadership shows itself. Or the lack of self. I never thought I would witness this much of a failure of a president as a president of America. I'm worried what he does next, as he, unlike in other nations, is also the head of the military. I know not without bounds, but when has this president ever known bounds or respected them? The nation is on fire, quite literally, and I am just worried. Especially for those living on the borderline of society, as they are usually the first victims when the system is collapsing. And of course, I am worried that the soldiers will be ordered to wage war against the population of their own nation, because of the situation caused by this madman, who fans the flames to distract from his failure. I know that I am hoping for a miracle, but I wish everyone to be kept from harm as much as possible, and that there will be no reenactment of the Civil War. A woman can hope and dream. Life is precious and so easily lost. Please take very good care of yourself and watch yourself, as these are trying times indeed. I hope and wish for the best, but mentally, I prepare for the worst. That was it for today's episode. I hope you are all safe and well. This year is certainly shaping up to be one hell of a challenge. May the odds be always in our favor. But if I can help, or if you have any questions or feedback and the like, please let me know at contactme@johannatakonis.com. More information and transcripts you can find as usually under johannatakonis.com/podcast. Information regarding therapy you can find under johannatakonis.com/therapy, and links are in the description. Hope to see you next time. Watch yourselves and have a wonderful time.